Ever since a baby, I've been trying to get away, trying to lock in the guap, trying to block with the pain. I'm a blind little boss, I'm on top of the game. I've been plotting a lot, now I'm tossing your bait. Yeah, my pops got caught, didn't lock them away. My mom fought hard, 5 jobs in a day. I'll be dropping the box, but I'm copping the pain. We off to the stars, so a tropical place. Ooh, yeah, I'm spitting it heavy, the mission is steady. Your bitches are jelly, I'm ditching the petty. You're digging for pennies, I'm itching and ready. I open my heart when I listen to Shetty. I'm bold like a boss, but I'm little like Debbie. I know what the bros, I got Richard and Getty. I'm holding the guap and I'm whipping the Yeti, yeah, Kari can play with advanced moves. I'm fucking my girl and her man too. I'm taking the ball like Durant do. My soul is the one that I can't lose. I soak up the sun like a sand dune. I'm holding up love with the bamboo. I'm rolling the blunt by the candle. Taking the game, running it back without taking a drink. Yeah, I'm the one and I'm making a wave. Rolling the blunt and I'm blazing a J. I'm escaping the brain, go straight for the cake. I'ma take to the bank, not taking a break. I'm made for the race, I pray for the day. I wake with a bake in the greatest state.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jay. That's Maddie. It's Yankee and the Britain. It's time for Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, week 9. We're actually just a day past halfway. We're just a day past halfway through where the season actually is now because we have an odd amount of weeks. So halfway through was yesterday. So halfway through the season. And here's news to everybody, and it's going to pop up in the comments at any point soon. The Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott suck.
It's actually an even amount of weeks still because you have 18 weeks with 17 games.
Yeah, you have the bye weeks, right? So actually, Sunday is actually the midpoint. But
yeah,
anyway.
Well, actually, it'd be today because the league starts on Thursdays. So today's actually halfway.
Well, there you go.
So we hit it halfway. Boom.
Anyway,
if my math is right.
Halfway through, and the news is the Dallas Cowboys suck. That's the news. There you go. That's the headlines.
And if we're wrong, let us know. Neither of us are mathematicians.
Should we just dive straight into that game, Jay? We always start our week with our reactions to the week before, and I've just put the Dallas Cowboys at the top of the order just to get my pain out of the way. Jay, the Dallas Cowboys played against the San Francisco 49ers. Is this the end of the season for the Dallas Cowboys?
No.
What do you think they by the end of the season? Yeah.
Look at the records. It's not like nobody it's not like every playoff team's running away with this thing, right? And even the division, I mean, I still think you're 3 games behind, but I think on the playoffs you're like a game and a half back or something, if I'm right. So
it's so for me it is over. For me, I don't think we're good enough. I don't think we're good enough. It's not necessarily a records thing. I'm just not sure whether we're good enough.
Do you mean playoffs or a contender?
The playoffs. I'm happy to get to the playoffs, and then once you're there, then everything.
Yeah, because look at the NFC West, look at the North, look at they're all going to beat each other up before this is over, right? We got the Lions Packers this weekend. One of them's losing. And then the Packers Lions have to play again. The Vikings have to play the Lions and the Packers again. The Bears have to play everybody at least once. They're going to beat each other up.
Yeah, definitely. I just think it's the way that we're playing. I think off the bye, the 49ers are beaten up. We had a week to get it, and they looked good for the first half. So I thought I saw some things a bit more dynamic, to be honest. I think everything looked a bit more dynamic. I thought everybody looked a bit sharper. I thought everybody looked a bit snappier, especially in the first half. So that was good to see. There's a few shining lights there at the end of the tunnel for Dallas Cowboys fans, where I thought they actually looked like they had something about them, which is great. And then we got to the second half where the third quarter starts, and it's just, I text you and went, they worked us out by the end of the first half. This is going to go downhill from here. And the third quarter, just 3 touchdowns to none in the third quarter.
I did put in the group chat, I said, Maddie's going to fucking hate himself if he slept through this comeback because they were coming back. And I'm like, if they win, Maddie's going to fucking hate himself for going to bed.
Just so everybody knows. So obviously for me, these games are like these late night games, like they start at 1 a.m. So I always make it to the first half, kind of see how the team's doing, see how the game is shaping up. And I was like, this is going to go downhill. And I think it was the the third touchdown in the third quarter, I just text you being like, okay, cool, I'm going to bed. Like, that's it. I'm all good. And they did make a comeback. They did look a bit better. So there are some sharp things out there for the Dallas Cowboys. And actually, as well, just for Dallas Cowboys fans to know, and in terms of the season being over and playoffs, we still have both games against the Eagles to play. We still have both games against the Commanders to play. We still have another game against the Giants. So the actual division is in our hands in a way, because we still have 5 games in the division. We also have a lot of players to come back. Deron Bland should be back this week. Micah Parsons should be back this week or next week. D-Law should be back in 2 weeks' time. Brandon Cooks is coming back this week. Kevontre Turpin looks great as a gadget player, but he shouldn't be your second wide receiver. That's also something that people are missing. So there is hope for the Dallas Cowboys. I just personally don't think we're good enough to get past that point. And the Eagles looked great this week, and the Commanders are just look amazing as well.
Yeah.
I think the biggest reason why we don't look great, Jay, also I read somewhere that they gave us 12% chance to make it, a 12% chance to make the playoffs, which I'm not sure about that one. I think we have a much better chance to make the playoffs than that. But Jay,
I think that's just mathematical, though. Like, they don't take into account, like, other teams are dealing with some rotten injuries, different things like that. I don't wish this on anybody, but somebody's going to lose. A playoff team's going to lose a quarterback. Like, these things happen. I don't. When you said, "Is it over?" No, not yet. Would I be shocked if they missed the playoffs? I wouldn't be shocked, but I'd be like surprised.
You'd still be surprised if they missed the playoffs.
I do. They're so talented. I feel like they're going to string together 9 or 10 wins and squeak the fuck in. But if they don't, I wouldn't be like completely shocked.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if they made it from this point, just because of the way that the season's gone. And Jay, it's because of one guy. It's all because of one guy.
It is, and that's actually one of my overreactions. So should I just throw it out right now?
Yeah, throw it right out.
Mike Zimmer should have been fired after the game.
Yeah, Mike Zimmer should have been gone after this game. So Jay, is Mike Zimmer over the hill? Is my question to you.
Okay, it's weird because, yes, he's old and over the hill goes that way. But, yes, the NFL's passed him by because he has not changed that defense since he was in Cincinnati. Like before he was the Vikings head coach, which it worked great for 4 years with the Vikings. But the last 4 years were, like, not as good. And then everybody was blaming the Kirk Cousins and the offense. That had a lot to do with Mike Zimmer thought he could win by defense, and we went through this run on first, run on second, throw on third and long, run on first, run on. But Zimmer is not doing anything to help them, and it makes me go back to when I watched The Pivot with Rex Ryan, and I started to think, how different would this team be with Rex Ryan, who changed his defense almost every year, right? He just never ran. Yes, he has that base defense, but he always switched it up. He never got complacent. So it makes me think, not just Rex Ryan, but with other defensive coordinators, where would they be? Because even when the Vikings were bad with their defense 2 years ago, like, they got stops on some third downs. That's how they came back and won games. It's like, you guys are like, you'll get it 3rd and 7 and then fucking give it up. Like, that's a problem. And that was the problem Zimmer had in Minnesota.
So I do feel sorry for Mike Zimmer because he hasn't really had his first choice defense out there since he started, which is really tough. That is difficult, especially with the way that the Cowboys roster is built, which isn't his problem. That's a GM problem. The Cowboys roster is very top heavy. Like, yes, we have a lot of talent, but it's like spread very thin. When you look at the 49ers, we have just as many injuries as the 49ers. Like, just so people are saying, everybody's like, the 49ers are beat up. The Dallas Cowboys are also beat up. It's just the 49ers can actually replace them with players that they've got, and we just don't have those players on the field to do that. So that is difficult for him. I get it. And he did something interesting. He did something at the start of the game to try and combat this, and it was pressure Brock Purdy, just 6-man, just fill it and just rush. Every time they're in shotgun, pass rush on, go. And it looked good. It worked until the last drive in the first half, where Brock Purdy missed an easy throw for a touchdown. He completely missed on, and he should have looked at it then and gone, okay, they've read it. How do I move now? How do we move? How do we change this? and he didn't. He just ran the same again. That would have been the time to actually go to his solid defense that he normally plays at that point to mix it around again, because Brock Purdy's shown he can get a bit thrown off when people are changing things around at him.
Yeah, and one of the things is, to be fair, so 2 weeks ago when you guys got beat up, Zimmer didn't have Kendricks. That's who calls the defense. And what people don't understand about Mike Zimmer is he does not call plays. He gives the linebacker concepts, and then the linebacker distinguishes the play. So without him, made it worse. I do feel a little bad of beating up on Mike Zimmer, only on the fact that in the last decade, this guy lost his wife and his son. So I want him to have football. We always forget the human angle in sports, right? We do. We oh, this dude fucking sucked. But I just think I feel bad beating him up, because I'll always have a little love for Zimmer because he was a Vikings coach and that kind of stuff. And so I feel bad. But if you ain't doing your job, you ain't doing your job.
I think he's a good coach, right? I think he's a really good coach. I just think that the NFL has passed him by. The way that you run defenses in the NFL now is like what Brian Flores does, right? Which is, how many angles of attack can I come from, and how much can I mix this up? How can I confuse the quarterback on the other side of the ball, and how can I mix this up? And he doesn't. He comes in with a game plan, really structured, and it works. At the start of the game, we get stops. We're not doing what we did under Dan Quinn last year, which is that in some games we would go behind and then we can't come back from that. But Dan Quinn's defense would mold and change to what's going on in front of them.
You created turnovers with Dan,
and you create turnovers, which is what happens when Darren Bland is on the field, which is really important to remember that Bland isn't on the field, Parsons isn't getting any pass rush, Lawrence isn't there to stop the run. It is difficult. It is difficult going there. And Leighton Vander Esch, I think Leighton Vander Esch in this defense would have made a really big difference as well. Best tackler the Cowboys have had since Sean Lee as well. But he's retired from football because of a neck injury too.
Zimmer should have stayed at Colorado with Prime. I think that would have been perfect.
Zimmer should be a college coach, because he sets everybody up in such a brilliant way to start the game. It's such a structured way, and that's what kids need, right? That's what these kids need, is how do I just set up throughout the week? And I think Mike Zimmer would be great at that. The NFL has passed him by, and it's not necessarily his fault. It's just his concepts don't work anymore.
Let's just say the Cowboys should fire him, but somebody should give him an advisor job, because I want that dude to still be in the NFL, because I can't even fathom the life he's lived. That's the thing. And so I feel like it got me a little bit while I was bashing Zimmer in my head the other day. I was like, man, I feel guilty because this dude's went through some wild trauma in his life.
Yeah, I think it's a shame for the Dallas Cowboys that they could probably go get Robert Saleh from his advisory thing from Green Bay.
Yeah, he's working with the Packers. So after this year, I'm sure he'll be open for a job. I did think it was weird when I saw reports that he was in Green Bay, and then I was like, are they going to give him a job, or is he just doing the Belichick thing where he tours the NFL and, that kind of thing? But we'll get to it. But the Jets there's rumors they're already talking about moving on from Rodgers after this year.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think about the Cowboys comeback? As we go, how much of that do you think is things like prevent defense? And the Cowboys seem to do this where they get beat up and then they seem to rally and come back.
It is a little bit of, we'll let you get things in front of us. But when you get to the red zone, they're still trying to stop you. And he was fine. How CeeDee Lamb was that fucking wide open that many times. Literally, if I'm playing the Cowboys, I'm literally looking at it and go, CeeDee's not beating us. That's it. CeeDee is not beating us. And they almost let him come back with CeeDee Lamb beating him.
Yeah, Dak's getting a lot of hate again because Dak just gets the hate. Look, Dak isn't as good as some Cowboys fans think he is, and he's not anywhere near as bad as other Cowboys fans think he is. He's just a very middle of the road quarterback. And they cost, every time they come to the market, that's how much they cost, is the top of the market money.
Somewhere between 15, which is probably really low, right?
Yeah.
And
8
6
any given week.
6.
Yeah.
Yes, depending on the game, right? He's you and the season. Dak's not the fucking problem. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Dak's a better quarterback than Sam Darnold. Dak's a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield. And I love Baker, so
yeah.
But it's not that. It's just everything around him seems to be imploding, especially this year. And I do wonder if the uncertainty with the coaching staff has something to do with it too.
Yeah, he also just has these ridiculously weird interceptions, and he always has had these really
Yeah, but that's Sammy
strange
Baker too. That's why I use those two. They have bad turnovers.
Yeah, it's really strange interceptions. So Dak Prescott actually on a quarterback level, on league-wide level, apart from this year and 2 years ago, is actually very low in turnovers, but he's very high in what PFF called turnover-worthy plays, which I know is a stat that you don't like, but it does work like here, just for this particular.
It works. That stuff works for a quarterback most of the time. My argument is you don't know what the receiver did wrong. Yeah. That's my problem with it. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. So Dak ranks really high in turnover-worthy plays, but seems to get away with the turnovers quite a lot of the time.
I bet you Patrick Mahomes is really high in turnover-worthy plays, though.
Yeah, Josh Allen is ridiculous. Like, if you look at his turnover-worthy play count, it's ridiculous. I think there's one more. It's like, it's Aaron Rodgers has like a weird amount of turnover-worthy plays as well compared to his interception ratio.
But when you have great receivers, you give them an opportunity. Yeah. And CD, Devontae for a lot of years with Aaron. You know, Josh Allen had Stephon Diggs. There was times where he was just like, fuck it,
Yeah. So I think the playoffs are out of reach for the Cowboys just because I don't think the defense molds well enough during game. It'll be good when everybody comes back. We'll see. But I'm not on the side of let's blow it up and start again, which is what a lot of people are starting to say now. What can we get for these picks? What can we get for these picks? And it's like, you can't do that when your quarterback earns $60 million. Like, that's just not how it works.
And if you're going to reshuffle the deck, you do it after the season, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Anybody you're going to trade right now is still going to be tradable at the end of the season unless they're on their last year of the contract.
Yeah, I heard somebody say, Colin Cowherd said, trade Micah Parsons, he'll get you 2 first-rounders. And I'm like, but you don't do that. Like,
if you can go up and secure your a quarterback for the future, I'm not saying Dallas.
Yeah,
I'm just saying in general, right? If you can go, you give your best defensive player up to go get Jayden Daniels.
So Myles Garrett with the Browns makes sense because we'll talk. They're actually one of the teams that we'll talk about here in a second.
That's a good example.
Like Myles Garrett, it makes sense, right? But when you're already paying your QB, so even if they thought Dak isn't the QB of the future, we're now locked in for the next 4 or 5 years.
Unless somehow you could trade Dak, but I don't know what the ramifications are on that.
Yeah, exactly. So there's no point of blowing it up. JF for the 49ers look good. I think the 49ers haven't looked great all year. I think once they diagnosed what was going on with the Cowboys defense coming out, I thought Brock Purdy settled and he looked really good. Do you think the 49ers are back on track here, looking more like the 49ers now?
I think they're still going to make the playoffs, that kind of thing. I don't know. I don't feel like they're a contender, and it's very weird, like for the Super Bowl right now. I'm not saying they can't get there, right?
Yeah.
Right now, but dudes are starting to look old, and CMC not being there, and they still have a great running game, is really fucking them up, which really odd to me.
Yeah.
Because you still have a good running game, but yet you're not as explosive and dynamic as you were when Christian was there.
Yeah, really weird.
Madden curse.
Really weird game. Yeah, maybe. How it looks is that game shouldn't have been this close. I remember when I woke up and I was like, oh, the Cowboys actually kept it kind of close, like it was not as bad as what it could have been. But the 49ers ran for 200 yards on the ground without CMC. But that's just the Cowboys running defense at the moment. And I can't remember the guy's name who ended up running because Mason got injured. I can't remember his name. He gave up a touchdown at the end of the game to make sure that they made it as well. It's 2 in 2 weeks. If he's got fantasy owners, then they're going to be seething.
Hey, that kid's impressive, though. I forget.
Yeah, he looks good.
He impressed me.
He looks good. I think he actually looks a bit better than Mason. Whenever I saw him run, I thought he was more dangerous. That 4.3 speed. I think when he gets out into the secondary,
also, why are you throwing a fucking screen if you're the Cowboys to your fucking fullback when you have Dalvin Cook? That's what I still want to know.
Yeah, makes no sense. Dalvin Cook came in, didn't look good at all. But I don't think they gave him the opportunity to look good. They asked him to run the route.
It's his first game in fucking sense. And they can say he played last year, but did he? Like, I mean, the dude had like fucking maybe 100 carries last year, maybe.
Yeah, they also asked him to do the same running game as Zeke, which is inside zone straight up the middle, and that's not what Dalvin Cook has ever done. So I think it's strange.
The only running back in the league who's slower than Najee Harris, but
Zeke, like, if you told me our running back room going into week 9 was Zeke and Dalvin Cook, but you transported me back to like 2018, I'd be so excited right now. It looks old. It looks old. I thought the 49ers looked good coming off a few very bad performances. They're going to get more pieces back. So let's see how they
Cook seems to be hurting too. Like the not having Cook, like not having that true.
Not having Brandon Cooks is
And is Turpin 9?
Turpin's 9. Dak for an absolute
fucking dime.
Yeah, Dak for an absolute dime.
He gave him a 30-yard handoff and he missed it.
And he's gone, by the way. Like, Turpin there is gone. Like, the way that he plays the game. So, Turpin, sort that out. Like, Turpin, for all Cowboys fans, Turpin is are like, if he can just improve his route running and improve his hands over the next few years, like, he'll be an unbelievable third wide receiver, because he was the MVP for the XFL for a while, and he's our return man and those kind of things as well. I just picked him up in fantasy because I think
threw a beautiful pass there.
Absolute time. Yeah, and he just let it go straight for his hands. It's unfortunate. Anyway, Jay, our NFC East rivals are the Washington Commanders. They played against the Chicago Bears in what was a low-scoring game, but like actually quite a good game in one of those low-scoring games here. Should the Bears be worried or excited about Caleb Williams' performance in that game?
Worried might be going a little too far, but I'm questioning what the fuck is going on. Like, there was a point in that game where that dude had, like, in the fourth quarter, had, like, 78 yards of passing or some shit. Like, it was wild.
Yeah.
And his completions were dog shit going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so he finishes the game 10-24 for 131 yards in that game. No touchdowns either in that game. I thought...
Do you remember what you messaged me?
Yeah, I did. I think I said Caleb's looking like he's sorted it out and looks good. And then you said, wait until he fucks this up.
And I said, keep that same energy when he fucks this up.
Yeah, but actually, to be fair to Caleb, so I get it. The whole game entirely, I thought that was a rough game for the first 3.5 quarters. I thought it was really rough. But then he had 2 really good drives in the fourth quarter where he made some really good plays. He settled things down. Like, he made some big plays outside the pocket, picked up 2 third downs and those kind of things and looked really good. And actually, Caleb Williams had them ahead with 23 seconds left to go. So when he left the field with 23 seconds left to go, they were ahead.
He could have been up by 14 or more, though, because guys were wide open in the end zone and he just didn't let it go.
Yeah, important to note, this is against the Commanders defense that hasn't been good so far this year. So, so I don't know. I think he showed big in like the fourth quarter moment to drive them down the field.
I'm not saying he's a bust, but I'm a Chicago fan. I'm pissed off on how this season's going with Caleb.
I think he had a very rookie game.
Caleb's going because they've squeaked out some wins they shouldn't have got, which it's great. That's what you need to do. Yeah.
That game against the Titans comes to mind where Will Levis handed them the pick six first game of the week. But yeah, I found Caleb Williams has been a really difficult quarterback to evaluate so far this year. I think he just looks like a very, very talented rookie. Like, he makes rookie errors, rookie mistakes in terms of reading defenses. He also tries to make big plays that don't wash in the NFL. Like, if he was still at college, fine, he would get those big plays, but they don't wash at the NFL. So once he puts that away, I think they'll be fine. And I think he made some big plays.
That's the question. Can he? Yeah, or is that just who he is as a quarterback?
Yeah, I suppose actually, if he actually doesn't put that away, that's also fine, as long as he's also making those big reads. Like, there's plenty of quarterbacks who try to make too many big plays and end up fucking shut up a little bit, like Josh Allen normally, not this season, but Josh Allen normally.
To be fair, I think that the Commanders' defense is finding their own right now too.
Yeah, that is one of the questions I was going to ask you, Jay. Is Dan Quinn's defense starting to take hold? They only let up 15 points against the Bears. They only let up 7 points against the Panthers. and then it was 30 points against the Ravens the game before that. But that to me feels like good numbers there. Obviously, the Panthers can score points. Like the Panthers actually don't look horrendous, entirely horrendous the whole time. So 7 points to any NFL team is pretty impressive, and 15 to a Bears team who've had some big scoring games, I think is very impressive as well. But is Jayden Daniels' aura carrying them through the games here? I think just the sense that Jayden Daniels is going to get this done, I think is almost enough for the Commanders. I'm not going to lie to you. I was sat there for that Hail Mary and I went, do you know what? He's going to make this. I had full confidence that Jayden Daniels was going to do something special on that play.
Yeah, my wife was watching the end of that game with me, and she was shocked at the Hail Mary. But are we going to not talk about the elephant in the room?
Talk about it. Go for it.
So if you're a Bears player, how the fuck are you not ready for the Hail Mary? Like, how are you still jacking with the fucking crowd? Like, I don't get that. And I know he apologized to the team, and I guarantee you it's never going to happen again in this young kid's career. He's never going to let it happen again. And I'm not even saying it's his fault it happened. It's just a bad fucking look.
He actually had a really good game up until that point, and then he's jarring with the fans and he's waving them off, and then he doesn't realize that the Hail Mary's been snapped, and then you can just see he gets flustered and just goes, right, I'm attacking the ball, and it ends up it's his hand that hits it through, from what I've seen, to the guy on the other side and things like that as well. So yeah, not great. If I'm the offensive line, I'm probably teaching that kid a bit of a lesson, like when he gets back to the locker room, just saying, don't fucking do that shit again. When it's coming up. But yeah, I don't think it'll ever happen again. But obviously a very lucky play, but there's a point where, like Aaron Rodgers, it happens for him a lot of the time, and it's his kind of aura that like carries people through. It's his presence and those kind of things. And I think Jayden Daniels, when we're looking at the Jayden Daniels versus Caleb Williams debate, I think Jayden Daniels is a more talented quarterback, but I also think he holds just a presence in that organization now where he is the leader. He carries that team through. He just is running the show. Like, you just watch him and he's running the show. What's also really important to note, and whoever was commentating on that game said it quite a few times, he was playing with basically still a fractured rib during that game. Like, he was playing through the pain and wincing through the pain. So on some of those, the Washington Commanders offense is slowing down. They only scored 18 points, and 6 of them are from a Hail Mary. Well, one, the Bears are a really good defense, and two, Jayden Daniels is playing through a lot of pain and still got them through to that point. And they drove down every single time. They were just in the red zone and couldn't get it quite done in the red zone. So I think the Commanders are going to be fine. I think they're a really difficult team to play, especially with Jayden Daniels looking like that. And our final reaction to this week before we move on to our overreactions, Jay, is the Browns versus the Ravens. Jay, does the Browns roster actually look much better with Jameis Winston in it? Do we almost see some of the talent that the Browns roster has?
It does. But Jameis is still Jameis. Let's not pretend like he didn't try to give that game away. And Hamilton could have put that game away and hit him right in the fucking chest. So they got lucky to get out of there with that win, but it does prove that Deshaun Watson's the fucking problem.
Hamilton has been was on the shortlist for my defensive player of the year for our mid-season awards. That is coming up. He was on my list.
Way to not give me a warning with that one coming too.
Sorry, man.
I got home today and was like, oh fuck, I gotta figure this out now. Yeah.
Yeah, the running order. It's like I send you the running order when I finish it, which is also when I have to do it as well. All the notes. Sorry,
yeah,
man.
I was at work though, and I don't know what time you said it, but I got home a couple of 3 hours before the show and was like, "Oh, okay."
Sorry, man. My bad.
No,
I should have warned you. Anyway, we have our mid-season awards coming up. I'm glad you actually noticed it because I was kind of worried about that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Jameis Winston is Jameis Winston. He's the guy who threw for what was his record again in the books? Was it 50 touchdowns and 50 turnovers? It was something ridiculous. He went 1 for 1 on touchdowns and turnovers, and they were both the highest amount of touchdowns in Bucs history and the highest amount of turnovers in NFL history. That's Jameis, and I like that from Jameis. I think he gives the Browns an actual spark to their season, makes them harder to beat. Cedric Tillman, the second year wide receiver, I thought looked really good. 99 yards, 2 touchdowns. When you have a guy who can actually move the ball, it means that your defense can get off the field. So they had 31 minutes in times of possession. The Ravens had 28 minutes in time of possession, which meant they only conceded 24 points to a Ravens team. That's really good. So when you have a quarterback who can actually lay it down and move the ball, then that's fine as well. Is Jameis Winston the future of the Browns? Yeah.
No. Maybe next year, but like, are we talking future? No.
Yeah, so Jameis Winston is 30 years old, which I found surprising and not surprising at all. Like, I was like, oh, Jameis Winston feels younger than that. But I think that's just the way that he plays.
Remember, him and Mariota went 1-2, and I don't think Mariota feels young to you.
No, that's true. Mariota doesn't feel young either. But yeah, so Jameis Winston is 30 years old. So there's quite a few years of him playing NFL football here. Is he much worse than Geno Smith, who seems to be the future of the Seahawks? I don't think so. I think he's in the same category as Geno Smith.
I'm not a big fan of Geno either, though. So
I'm not. Yeah, exactly. If I'm the Browns, I'm looking to trade some assets so I can make sure that I get a quarterback in the next round here. And finally, Jay, does this dent the Ravens' AFC Championship hopes?
No, I don't think so. Every team has a game where they go, "What the fuck just happened?" 1 or 2 every season.
Yeah, I think so. They have dropped out of the top 5 in the AFC standings. They're a game behind the Steelers in the AFC North, but they've still got the Steelers to play twice, and they've still got plenty of games to make this up. They still look like the best team in the AFC to me. I think they sometimes have these games, the Ravens especially, where their defense is a problem. Like, their defense is actually a problem that they need to solve, because
also
it just has these games where they fuck up.
Belichick said a couple weeks ago, home field advantage in the playoffs is great until you get to the AFC or NFC championship game, and then you don't want it. You do not want home field advantage for the champion. And he said because there's too much pressure on the coaches and the players. Because you have home field in the championship game, you're expected to win no matter what. So there's more pressure. He says it's actually better to go into an AFC championship game on the road. Wild statement, but after he explained it, I was like, it makes sense. And if this dude is saying it, there's something to it.
Yeah, did he not play? I'm pretty sure he played most of his AFC Championship games at home, but he must have just enjoyed those AFC Championship games on the road.
It's just less pressure through the whole week on the team, and I think that's and coaches, and people forget that coaches can get caught up in the pressure of a moment too.
The Ravens also have a game that goes away from home very well. They have a game that travels, especially in those early January games. In the playoffs, it travels really well. Run the ball, keep the offense off the field. I think that's a great way of winning away. So I think even if they don't get home field advantage, which I think they will, but even if they don't get home field advantage, I don't think the Ravens should really worry too much about getting towards the AFC Championship game. Jay, our Week 8 overreactions are in. Your first one was Mike Zimmer should have been fired straight after the game. Jay, my first one is the Lions are the best team in the NFL right now. The Detroit Lions are the best team in the NFL right now. They just steamroll teams when they come up to them.
Do they?
But they've steamrolled the last 2 teams.
I don't know. I think they're good. I think the Ravens, I think the Kansas City are better. Both are better than them. I still think the Vikings are better than them after that loss. I actually think all the penalties prove it, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think the way that I think it's almost the way that they put bad teams to bed means I don't think they're going to really lose a game against a bad team, which is a big thing in the NFL. I think they would get out coached against Kansas City and against maybe not out coached against the Ravens, but the Ravens roster. I think that would be a really great game. And the Vikings seem to have pissed off the NFL referees at the moment, so that makes it difficult for them. Jay, what's your second overreaction of the week?
All right. Let me see here. Where did I put it? The NFL needs to start firing refs.
Yeah, I this in direct correlation with the game on last Thursday night. Obviously, a lot of problems there, and I think it's just the right thing to do. What
It's not
other
even
sports
that game though. I'm watching Sunday and I'm like, what
Yeah.
the fuck are these refs doing? They need to start firing refs.
What other sports leagues do is they have feeder leagues for them to go to and referee games there. So, like the Premier League, if you do shit in the Premier League, you get sent down to the Championship. If you're still doing shit there, you get sent down to League One, League Two, all of those kind of things, right? And then you can hone your game. It's just like the players. We'll talk about a potential NFL development problem at quarterback, but I think they also have a development problem at referee. And also, the other problem with NFL referees, Jay, is they're old as fuck. Like, there are not enough young referees, I don't think. Like, the guy who missed Jared Versus thing, I think he needs to go get his cataracts seen to, you know? Like, because it is directly in front of him. So I agree with you on that one. There should be
I don't know her
penalties
name,
towards the
but
ref.
there's a ref that's got dark black hair that wears a ponytail that every time I see her ref is awful and they need to fire her.
Yeah, there's just so, like, the NFL also need to help the refs in terms of tech, using the tech to assist them as well. Jay, my second one is the Chargers will win 2 playoff games this year.
Okay.
I think the Chargers are just, I think they're built. I think the Chargers are built to play winning football. I think they're almost the opposite.
So they're
of the
going to the
Jets.
NFC Championship game.
So the Chargers
Or
are going to the
AFC, I
AFC
mean.
Championship game. Yeah.
All right.
Divisional. Is that two wins away? Oh, that is quite a lot. Yep. All right. Go on. I'll stick with it. It's overreactions. Remember, it's overreactions. All right, Jay. What's your third overreaction?
Jayden Daniels is better than Patrick Mahomes.
Wow. That's a big one. You're going to have to elaborate on that one.
He's more athletic and he throws a perfect deep ball, like perfect, almost every time.
Yeah, I think, his deep balls are unbelievable. I think
and they both got a feel for the game. They both just feel pressure and so I'm not saying this is overreaction, guys. When you get all in the comments, it's overreaction.
It's the arm angles of Patrick Mahomes, right? That make him something else. So it's something that Jayden Daniels doesn't have. We'll see if he can add it to his game as well. But the running ability and the scrambling ability, well, Patrick Mahomes is pretty good at scrambling. We're splitting hairs here on the fact that, like,
and it's an overreaction.
Yeah, 100%. Jay, I'm kind of in the same place with you as this. This is the best quarterback class of all time. Looking at this quarterback class here, Bo Nix is playing really good football, in my opinion. Jayden Daniels, obviously, I think is going to be one of the top 5 quarterbacks of all time. In the NFL at the moment. Caleb Williams, I think, has shown a lot of good while he's there. We don't know about Michael Penix, but Spencer Rattler looked like he had enough to play in the NFL as well.
If JJ McCarthy and Penix can play, holy fuck, it's not even a question.
Yeah, if JJ McCarthy and Penix can play, which we'll see them both in the next 2 years, just because of the way Kirk Cousins is in Atlanta. I think he's got 1 more year left, and JJ McCarthy will be playing next year.
They didn't come out and say it, but the Vikings have pretty much put it out there that they're moving on from Sam Darnold after this season.
Yeah, JJ McCarthy will be playing next year for the Minnesota Vikings, definitely. So I guess we'll see what they've got. And that was overreactions. And Jay, it is now time for my favorite segment that we do here on the show. It is GMJ, General Manager Jay, where our esteemed general managing expert here, Jay, gets asked a few questions. Jay, we already covered my first question, which is, should the Cowboys blow it up and who do they trade? We're both on the side of no. That seems strange. Jay, if you're the GM of the New York Jets, do you want Aaron Rodgers next year?
I think the GM's going to be gone. So you're asking me? Yeah, I do, because you don't have a replacement. So you have to bring somebody in. So yes, I do want Aaron Rodgers back next year, but that's because of the situation they're in where they don't have somebody to be the heir apparent right now. And the one really good quarterback that you could go get is never coming back to your team.
Yeah, after what you did to him, that's Sam Darnold. I think
that's Sam Darnold. If nobody, never coming back.
I think Aaron Rodgers. He's playing really good. Like Aaron Rodgers is actually playing quite well. Like when you watch Aaron Rodgers on a game to get, like the Jets are just not playing winning football at all at the moment. But we'll get to that. They're not sticking it together and playing winning football. So I'm not getting rid of Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers wants to leave and he decides to leave, I'm not necessarily upset about it. But I'd rather he be in the building than me kick him out of the building. You know, Jay, Anthony Richardson has been benched by the Indianapolis Colts. You are the GM of the Indianapolis Colts. What do you do with Anthony Richardson?
I'm out.
You're out. You're done. Explain.
Tapping, take me out of the game, and I'm not even injured. I'm out. You are not a killer. You don't have the killer instinct. You don't have the clutch gene, and I don't give a fuck how talented you are. If you are going to leave your teammates hanging on the field, I'm out. And that's why he got benched. And people can argue whatever they want. That's 100% why he's not playing, which kind of pisses me off. But that's a whole nother thing because I'd rather face Richardson than Joey Footsteps as a Vikings fan. But I'm out.
Yeah.
And I was the guy who was like praising him. I'm out.
Yeah, I think with Anthony Richardson, with the top of the helmet, to me, it shows that you don't take your physical fitness serious enough as a quarterback. And I think there's actually quite a few NFL players that I could level this at in terms of like defensive ends who can't go every single down and stuff like that. And like not every single down, but can't be 3 down defensive ends because they can't rush. And I'm like, you don't take your stamina serious enough. Like European sports, like you're outright the whole time. Like rugby players, 80 minutes. Slaughter. And
with other positions, there's situations that they go in and out too, right? Run, pass. That kind of thing. But quarterbacks should never be put. Donovan McNabb was throwing up in the huddle in the Super Bowl and never tapped out. Brian Leftwich had a broken fucking leg at Marshall, and they carried him to the line of scrimmage. Like, you don't fucking do that.
Yeah, it's the one position. And it just, to me, it's like, oh, I was tired because I ran around a bit. And it's like,
and he should have
lied. One, fucking throw the ball away. 2, stop getting yourself injured. Do you know that Anthony Richardson has not played 3 games back-to-back in the NFL yet? He has not started 3 games since he's been in a row since he's been in the NFL.
Why didn't he lie? You just go up to the camera and they're like, what happened? I was fatigued and it wasn't normal. I didn't feel normal fatigue, like something was off, my breathing. Yeah. Come to the sideline, check me out. I was good. I went back in. Lie. Just fucking lie. Don't what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, weird. So I've never been that high on Anthony Richardson, but I did like what I saw from him at the start of the season. He still has the best throw so far this season in that first week.
He's just super talented.
He's super talented, but I personally look at it and I don't think he takes his game seriously enough. And I think I look and far from it from me to question as talented a guy as Anthony Richardson in his effort. But if you can't play quarterback for an entire game, you're not taking your physical stamina seriously enough, which makes me question how seriously you take your film. And is that why you're making mistakes out on the field? And is that why your throwing performances aren't great? Because he's got the arm to make it like
Kyler Murray. Why is he not getting beat up like Kyler Murray did?
Yeah, I wouldn't ever beat up on Kyler Murray for that because Kyler Murray has never shown me that that's a problem that he has.
Right, know? But they said he doesn't study. He likes to play video games. Now, he got beat up for some shit and that's off the field shit that he did. And Richardson's obviously not putting the work in off the field, and he let his team down on the field. And you just fucked your coach because it's 3rd and long. And then you bring in fucking Joe Flacco, who hasn't thrown a single fucking pass, and your coach has no choice but to run the fucking ball.
Yeah, and the other thing is with this is it's prompted a lot of people to say, does the NFL have a development problem? And we'll talk about that in the next segment because I think it is something worth talking about. I think it is a yes, but not in this particular instance. This, Anthony Richardson, this is on you.
Well, and I would say for that, it's the team. It's team by team with development, right? Because the Packers do a pretty good job of development. Everybody thought the Vikings were fucked, but they've developed young players since Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell got there. We've watched the Cowboys draft and develop. So it depends on which team we're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. Jay, the Carolina Panthers are apparently testing the trade market on Bryce Young as well, another young quarterback. You're the GM of the Carolina Panthers. Oh, no, you're just a GM of any team. Do you trade for Bryce Young?
If I'm
Do
the
you get him
Jets,
in the building?
if I'm the Jets, I'm not giving you more than like a 5th or a 6th round draft pick and maybe some kind of swap or whatever. But if I'm the Jets and I can keep Aaron Rodgers for another year, I can let him sit for a year and a half behind Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, I'm in. Like, there's certain teams that, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, exactly. Or teams that are like the Colts. If you've decided that Anthony Richardson, this is it. If you've decided this is it, you could probably get better trade value for Anthony Richardson right now.
Yeah, I doubt that they're going to move on from him, but I would been like.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a few teams out there as well. Or there's other
The Raiders.
teams, like,
what do you got to lose?
The Raiders, you have nothing to lose. Almost Miami, not for the reasons that Tua isn't good enough, but just what if he hits his head again? That might just be a really good place for Bryce Young to go as well. Like, if you could get him into a few games, then you up his trade value. If you're only giving up a 6, you might be able to get into a 4.
If you're the 49ers.
Yeah, the 49ers as well. There's a few teams
you can hold off. You could play the game and hold off from paying Purdy extreme money next year and just give him a little something to like and be like, hey, we'll take care of you this year and then we'll worry about it in the 4th year, right? We'll give you a little extra. We'll give you $10 million extra, and then what's he gonna do? Say no? You're the fucking Mr. Irrelevant, and it's after your 3rd season, you know. And then you bring him in because maybe you don't want to break the bank for fucking Brock Purdy. I don't know. But if anybody can get it out of you, it's a guy like Shanahan. Or what about his buddy McVay? McVay might be the right guy to take on behind Matthew Stafford. So there is some teams where I think that we need to see him with a really good coach too. He's got to get out of Carolina at this point. He's got to, because they benched him in his 2nd year. It's a wild situation. You got to get out of there.
I thought he actually made enough throws. Like, he made enough bad throws to remind us why he's been benched.
Yeah, but they're not putting him in a good situation to succeed either.
Yeah, he also made enough good throws, though. There were a couple of throws outside the numbers. There was one down the seam as well that I thought, look, he's there. Like, he is there. Like, the first overall pick in the draft is in there somewhere. You just need someone to come out and get it out of him, like what happened with Sam Darnold when he went to Kyle Shanahan, like what seemed to happen with kind of Geno Smith, is he's had a bit of time to go somewhere else and learn his game differently outside of a terrible team. That's the end of GMJ. Jay, rookie quarterback watch here. I thought it might be more interesting to talk about the development problem here than any of the quarterbacks, because we've already talked about Jayden Daniels. I've already mentioned how well Bo Nix is playing as well. What are your thoughts on the development problem here? How can the NFL make it better? Do the NFL need to make it better?
It's teams. It goes team by team, right? Carolina did a shit job. Of developing Bryce Young. I think the Bears are doing a shit job of developing Caleb Williams. And if and when he succeeds, because I think he probably will, because he's talented, it's going to be despite bad coaching. At least until, and I think Eberflus is going to do enough they're going to win enough games where Eberflus keeps that job, and it's a bad situation. But then I look at other teams. I mean, you get a Shanahan develops, KOC develops, McCarthy could develop a guy, McVay. Like, there's a bunch of coaches. I'd give Bobby Slowick or Ben Johnson a guy to develop. So it just depends on the organization, right? What's the organization? I think old head coaches don't develop. I think younger coaches do.
Yeah, what Cliff Kingsbury's doing for the Washington Commanders right now with Jayden Daniels, right? Like,
some people owe Cliff Kingsbury an apology. That's all I know. There's some people in the NFL world that owe that dude an apology.
Yeah, it's if you get he developed Kyler fucking Murray, who's like a really good player. It turns out, Cliff Kingsbury isn't a head coach. He's one of those. Dave Canales, who is in Carolina right now and should be doing a better job, but did a great job with Baker, and he had somebody else before that as well.
But now he's taking on a head coaching job for the first time. He might be overwhelmed in that situation, and I think a couple more years of this, maybe Cliff Kingsbury is a head coach, because so many head coaches learn from the mistakes they made the first time. He came in from college, didn't do a great job, but now he's with Dan Quinn. It seems to be, I never thought I'd say this, a very stable organization in Washington. So you never know. But I think young coaches are better at developing than older coaches.
Definitely. I would agree with that as well. I think what would be interesting is the idea of NFL feeder league, whether that's going back to something like NFL Europe, where you're looking to expand again. Kurt Warner came from NFL Europe, for example.
Just another quick thought. The Giants would be another one for Bryce Young, because Daboll can develop. It's just he's got nothing to develop in Daniel Jones. This is not on Daboll, even though he's probably going to get fired for it. And I actually think that Sam Darnold might be their quarterback next year, but
just sticking to the Jets. Yeah, that'd be good. So I think a feeder league is something that would be really interesting. I don't think it can be the XFL at all, because I think they're trying to be their own business. I think it has to be something that's not trying to be its own business.
They tried it with NFL Europe and it didn't work. That's why they'll never do it again, because they put a lot of money into it and it didn't work.
And so I think they tried it with NFL. It depends what you're doing it for, right? If the purpose of it,
I think it was called the World League. Actually, I don't even think it was called NFL Europe. I think it was called
NFL Europe. But
they had the World League before that, and then they sold out. And I think somebody else actually owned NFL Europe, but they were still feeding them back. Is what it was.
It depends what you're doing it for. If the whole purpose is to develop players, then it's fine. But if your purpose, which is with everything with the NFL and just everything in what makes the world go around and stuff, is making money, you can't compete with the NFL. So it doesn't matter. There's no reason to do it. Because what really they should be doing is having the league at the same time as the NFL. Because what that means is you can almost run it like a G League in the NBA, where you drop Anthony Richardson down, he goes and is the best fucking player in NFL Europe or whatever, NFL 2 or whatever you want to call it. He's the best player. Nobody's really watching the games. Nobody really gives a shit, right? But he's the best player there, but he actually learns and applies his trade and those kind of things. I think if the point is to develop players, and if you develop players that way, you also develop coaches as well, but they won't be making money. And at the moment, there is no reason for the NFL itself to care about player development. There is no reason for them to do that, because they get enough talented players in the draft. They can just use what college football is doing. There is no reason for them to do that. If the NFL became an international sport where you need to develop your own players and those kind of things, which it never will because of just how already miles ahead the states are, so it doesn't really matter.
And the NBA owners hate the G League because it costs them money.
Yeah, exactly.
Why they hate the WNBA is because they have to supplement the WNBA also.
Yeah, if teams went, okay, we want to make sure that every draft pick we do is a hit, right? And they develop this league. And I'm sure there are some teams that would have, like Jerry Jones, it'd be small fry coming out of his pocket, and it just would mean that every pick he makes is a hit and those kind of things, right? There are some teams, but there are other teams that can't afford that expenditure. So it would have to be the NFL that does it, and they just won't do it if it doesn't make any money, which is unfortunate. Also shit done.
I don't know if you guys use this saying. It might be just an American thing. But there's a saying that says, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense.
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, we obviously don't say that because it doesn't make.
Yeah, you got pounds, and
if it don't make pounds, it don't make pence. Doesn't quite work. But yes,
kind of like that. If it don't make pounds, it don't make pence.
No. So that was Rookie QB Watch, where we were talking about the development of NFL players. Jay, let's move on to the surprise part of this podcast for you. It is the mid-season awards, where we hit mid-season and we're here for our mid-season awards, where we award our rookie offensive player of the year, rookie defensive player of the year, offensive player, defensive player, coach of the year, and our MVP as well. Jay, who is your rookie offensive player of the year?
Jayden Daniels.
I think there's only one answer, right? It is Jayden Daniels. I'm going to give an alternative just because we all know it's Jayden Daniels. I'll say Brock Bowers as well. I think has shown amazing. He's going to break all sorts of tight end rookie records going into this year. But Jayden Daniels is.
Yeah, it's rough when you're on a shit team to get the love too. But you're right. When you're on a shit team, it's hard to get that love.
Yeah, Jayden Daniels is also, it's also rough when a quarterback of a previously shit team looks to have made them a great team and is just, yeah, Jayden Daniels is immense. Jay, rookie defensive player of the year for you.
Jared Verse.
I don't think there's any competition. I couldn't even think of a player that I would also put alongside Jared Verse there.
You could argue Dallas Turner, but it's not a great argument. Like that's the only other one. And so I'm with you. It's Jared Verse.
It's Jared Verse, even with the face mask. He would have been my, I don't think he would have been my rookie of the week, actually. Lad McConkey would have been my rookie of the week this week, but Jared Verse was definitely up there as well, and he's normally around there as well. Jay, your offensive player of the year. We might get a few different answers now.
We are gonna, because they changed the rule, he can't be the comeback player of the year, but so it's Sam Darnold for me.
Offensive player of the year, Sam Darnold. All right, they don't usually give that one to a quarterback because they usually just reserve that for MVP.
For the MVP, I get that. But I think he's done such an amazing job for what everybody expected of him that I think you got to talk about him. I think you got to talk him in the MVP race. I just don't think he'll win it. But I think you got to talk about him when you talk about the MVP. He's just not the MVP, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm giving him some love, and I'm giving him Offensive Player of the Year.
Yep, I like that one. That's a good and actually interesting pick. That's a good one. I've gone less interesting. Mine's Derrick Henry. I think he's looked.
I was going to go with Derrick Henry too, so I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, mine's Derrick Henry. I also had Justin Jefferson on there as well. But
yeah,
Derrick
that's low-hanging fruit too. So I was like, yeah. Then there's always like, you could argue like, oh, Patrick Mahomes or somebody like that or whatever, but.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure when Hitman's watching this, he'll come up with Saquon Barkley as his.
Because according to him, Saquon Barkley's better than Christian McCaffrey, so let's not even go there. And that's not a shot at Saquon. I hate that he makes me feel like I'm shitting on Saquon.
Yeah, I think Derrick Henry is just the best free agent pick. Like, we all knew he was going to be as soon as it was announced he was going to the Ravens. I think he was brilliant. Jay, defensive player of the year.
I think it's easy. I think it's TJ Watt. I think it's Trent Jordan Watt. I think that's who it is.
Yeah, I don't think you can pick anybody else than TJ Watt. I nearly went Sexy Dexy, Dexter Lawrence.
I almost went with Chris Jones because that defense in KC isn't the same without him. But yeah, disrespectful to TJ Watt, who should have won it last year.
Yeah. So the thing is with TJ Watt in this particular time as well is he's actually getting less sacks than he should have for the first time in his career.
But so pressures.
I don't agree with PFF on every position that they put out there. But I love the way that they assess defensive ends because they do it on things like pressures. They do it on like potential turnover plays, like all of those kind of things. Like, do they fuck up the play, basically, which for me is more of a defensive end's job than a sack. A sack is stuff that you can sometimes fall into.
That's the amazing part about Jonathan Grenard for the Vikings. He's got some sacks, but the amazing amount of pressures, right? Like disrupting shit. TJ Watt can be triple teamed, and that just means that other people are singled up and he still gets through.
Yeah, I nearly put Grenard in here, and I almost put Van Ginkel as well. I think his impact has been really interesting.
Love Van Ginkel. I love anytime a Badger can do that for my Vikings, it's like a win-win for me.
Yeah. So actually TJ Watt in terms of PFF always, so Steelers fans hate PFF because they always seem to stiff TJ Watt. But it's because he normally gets way more sacks than he actually should do, which is, I know it's every time he fucked up a play, it would end up in a sack for him. Whereas like Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett, those guys would fuck up loads of plays, but it doesn't always end in sacks. This year, TJ Watt is not only getting less sacks than the times he's fucked up the plays, but he's also still getting loads of sacks and strip fumbles, and they come at the most important times in games. Like, he's ridiculous. He's been playing. For me, he's better than his brother, just from what I've seen of him.
Yeah, I don't know. Like when when JJ was in fucking Houston, that was an amazing fucking time. But I think they're both. I shouldn't even put that on the screen, but everybody tune in tomorrow to watch Mark and Montana, I couldn't even get past the go to remember Montana's name. On College Football Junkies, slow pack slow. Okay, fuck the Packers, but anyway, Skol Vikings. No, but they're on tomorrow, 9 a.m. and they're on Friday instead of Saturday because they got some real life shit going on this weekend. So make sure you tune in for that.
Yeah. Jay, Coach of the Year.
Kevin O'Connell. I didn't even have to look. I have Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah. Mark, give us your NFL Coach of the Year in the comments.
Part of the reason I gave it to him is because he got fucking hosed last year. Got fucking hosed.
So KOC was definitely on my list as well. I knew
Sam Darnold's the reason I gave it to him.
Yeah, it would be ridiculous if you didn't pick him. I think KOC is an excellent coach. I would have
went with Ben Johnson, but he's not a head coach.
I've got Cliff Kingsbury and Ben Johnson on my list as well.
Stop it.
Do you know what?
Leave it. Don't make me get up and walk out of here, Maddie. If you say he was on your list, I am so out of here. That's the most overrated head coach in the NFL right now.
He wasn't on my list. His wins with Malik Willis is semi-impressive, but weirdly, Malik Willis might actually just be a better quarterback for the Packers than John Love. Not a better quarterback than Jordan Love, but they look better than with Malik Willis than Jordan Love. Jay, mine's Dan Quinn. My coach of the year is Dan Quinn.
See, yeah. And I'm gonna get off subject quick, but Jordan Love is a cross between Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre without the Hall of Famer in him.
All the bad stuff. For the two of them.
Well, no, he's not horrible. I'm not shitting on Jordan Love. I love Jordan Love coming out of college too. So that isn't my Packer hate coming out. It's just I watched Jordan Love and I'm like, man, that was an amazing throw. And then a play later, I'm like, what the fuck was he doing? Yeah, I agree. It's definitely not Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, sorry, it's definitely not Mike McCarthy. That's a fair point.
Tried to put it up there, but it made it look like you ripped it down.
Get away. Yeah, it's definitely not Mike McCarthy. I think it's hey, I'm all here for the Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy dislike. You know, I've never been his biggest fan. I would have hired Dan Quinn instead of. I would have kept Dan Quinn as head coach and moved on from Mike McCarthy.
And he's got receipts. Just go watch our shows last year.
Yeah, I've got him. Don't you worry. I think Dan Quinn is. Done an immense job in Washington. I think it's about the way how they've stabilized that organization just from all the turmoil that it's had for a long, long time. So, yeah. And Jay, your MVP.
And the truth is it's probably Andy Reid, but it's too easy.
Yeah. You can't say Andy Reid. You're not allowed to say Andy Reid. You've got to have some form of.
That's like Bill Belichick. You can't say Bill Belichick every year when he was with the Patriots.
Yeah, definitely not.
Oh, good question.
No. That's not the way that Joe Jones rolls.
Unless he needs a headline.
Well, he kept Jason Garrett for he kept Coach Clapp for 8 years.
Yes, Coach Clapp. Yeah. That's what he did on the sideline, Coach Clapp.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
I like Jason Garrett at NBC. I think he's
really good.
What he does.
I think he's actually a really, really good football mind. I just don't think he's a head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. I think that wasn't a good fit. And I don't think Mike McCarthy is the reason for the Cowboys not playing well. I think it's his defensive coach that's the reason.
I was going to say Nick Sirianni just to get your reaction, but I don't believe none of us believe that's true. I just wanted the reaction.
Jay, your MVP of this season so far?
Jared Goff. He's got them winning despite bad coaching by Dan Campbell, and Ben Johnson's fucking amazing. Their defense is fucking really good. Dan Campbell makes boneheaded fucking decisions on fourth down and on time management all the time.
Yeah. I didn't have him on my list, but actually I wish I did now.
Okay.
I wish I did. That's a good point. He's just such a in the background player, which is also why he's awesome.
I don't mind that either. I don't mind Lamar either.
Yeah, Lamar's okay.
I don't mind if somebody said Jayden Daniels. I just don't think they'll give it to a rookie.
Well, hold that thought, Jay, because the real answer, like how it should have been CJ Stroud at points last year, is Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels has been the MVP of the season so far. The team that looks the most different than how they looked last year is the Washington Commanders. Like by far. All right. Okay. In terms of looking better, there are teams that look much worse, but in terms of looking better, and that's Jayden Daniels and Dan Quinn.
If you had to pick one person who is beyond the GM, because the GM would be the answer, beyond the GM, who do you think is the most important person to the turnaround of the Detroit Lions? Because I think it's Jared Goff. I do. You could argue Ben Johnson, but I think it's Jared Goff. I think he changed life and showed everybody this guy can fucking play.
Yeah. Yes. Although I also think Matthew Stafford would have done that if he was still there. That's the
See,
thing.
I don't, and that's the difference, because I just don't think Matthew Stafford plays the same type of football. It's completely different type of football.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think in terms of actually turning the culture around, I actually really like Dan Campbell to start that culture.
I get what you're saying.
Now,
what I hate, the biting kneecaps was what the team needed. I just thought it was such a
needed at the time.
cringy ass fucking press conference. That's all.
But now, what's taken them to this next level is having an offensive coordinator like Ben Johnson.
I'm dragging Mark into
guy
the
who can actually do that.
But Mark, me and Maddie are in the belief that the Lions should have went to the Super Bowl, but Dan Campbell cost them coaching. What do you think? That's what my question is.
I feel like we're just bringing Mark straight into the show. Now, guys,
just send him a link.
If you're ever watching the show, always feel free to get involved in the comments, because we will just get involved in the show with you, no matter how much it derails the show for us, either going forward.
We don't have a show without you guys, so
yeah, exactly. While we're waiting for Mark's answer on that, Jay, here we go. No, okay. While we're waiting for Mark's answer on that, I thought what we could do, Jay, is move on to Thursday Night Football. We're moving into Week 9 now. Thursday Night Football, we have the Jets, who are -2 point favorites against the Texans. Jay, should anyone be believing in the Jets?
Tonight, yes.
Tell me more.
Tank Dell. Okay, I'm done. That's it. Receiving core over. Like, you're down Nico Collins, you're down Stephon Diggs. All we really have to do if we're the Jets is stop the run. Sell out on the run, and you should win this game without a problem. And I just think that it's that simple. Sell out on the run.
Yeah, I think actually looking at the Jets, I'm not really sure if they can stop the run. They haven't been able to so far this season with teams that are have good run games, and the Texans have a really good run game. And also the Jets they've played games that they should have dominated. They've played games that they should have won, but they're playing losing football. And there is one team that is playing really, really, really good football in terms of just winning games that they shouldn't necessarily be winning. And it's the Houston Texans, who are 5-1 in one-score games so far. We've got Mark's answer.
He thinks they're going to the Super Bowl this year. I don't even think they make the NFC Championship game, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think Dan Campbell makes enough boneheaded plays for them to not make it that far.
Oh, yeah, let's just go on 4th down in our own fucking side of the field.
Yeah, let's just do
a fucking fake punt against one of the top special teams in the NFL. Like, okay, that's Dan Campbell shit if Ben Johnson was the head coach of that team, I would have a completely different outlook on the Lions.
Yeah, I agree. I think at that level, when you're talking Super Bowl, NFC Championship games, I said an overreaction that they're actually the best team in the NFL so far. I just think that their coach, unfortunately, will cost them going forward. I don't think there's any reason why.
It's nice when you have the refs handing you a division win.
I just don't think there's a reason that they. They should be the best team. They should be the best team by far in the NFL, but they make their coaching, their head coach makes boneheaded decisions, and I think he wears on the players too.
That's always my argument, is that they win despite Dan Campbell. Like, that's how good that team is. They win despite Dan Campbell. I think Dan Campbell's the downfall of that team. But you can call me a Dan Campbell hater out there, guys, too, if you want. I'll own that.
You can tell by the games that don't really fucking matter, like by how they just steamroll people. Like in last week's game, coaching doesn't matter, so they score 52 points. Like, like that's where they're at. But in games where coaching matters, they're not as good. they're definitely a difficult.
It is hard. I agree. I rarely pick against the Lions.
Yeah,
rarely.
I never pick against them really.
I even picked them to beat my Vikings. So
yeah,
even though the refs fucked us, but okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I just think looking at the Texans, the way that I look at these teams, I think the Texans and the Jets, they have two totally different DNAs right now. And the Texans is almost more championship DNA, get the win, get the win at all costs. And I think they're that kind of team. They're 5-1 in one-score games. The Jets are 2-6 in all of their games so far, and that includes games that they definitely should have won. Also, I totally take the point about Tank Dell. How much do you think they suffer from not having Stephon Diggs till the end of the season now, and Nico Collins comes back next week? How much do you think they suffer this week from not having either of those two?
That's it. I think they suffer this week. I think they'll be fine next week because Nico, as good as Stephon Diggs is, Nico Collins is the heartbeat of that wide receiver core. He really is. But let's not forget that fucking as much as CJ Stroud is fucking amazing, he had a really rough week last week too. This is the guy coming off like less than 100 yards passing.
Yeah.
Or week before.
The week before was the week before he went. This week he had a really good game against the Colts. But
that's right. I forgot they played. They played Mr. Tap Out. This fucking don't get me started.
Against the Packers, he threw for 85 yards. Against the Colts, he threw for 285 yards and one touchdown, 25 of 37. But that was with Stephon Diggs on the field for most of the game as well. Like Stephon Diggs went out non-contact muscle injury late in the game. Tank Dell went for 709 yards last year and that was, he missed quite a lot of games through injury, and he went for 709 yards.
Now he has to be the number one.
Yeah, I don't think he has to be the number one part of the offense, though. Like, the number one part of their offense tonight should be run the fucking football and just run it down their throats. And I think they also have a really great defensive line.
For me, I'm putting sauce on Tank, and then I'm just piling the box, and I'm going to be like, yes, Tank Dell's going to have to beat us if I'm the Jets.
Tank Dell is going to have to beat us against sauce. I think this is going to be a much better game than it predicts to be. However, I've said since 2 games ago, if the Jets are the favorites, then I'm going to lock in betting against them as one of my best bets of the week, apart from a few teams. Jay, the Jets are 2-point favorites. One of my lock-in bets of the week is the Texans +2 against the Jets.
That's funny because one of my locks of the week is the Jets -2.
Wow.
Texans. And it's because Aaron Rodgers is the greatest quarterback to ever throw a football, like throws the most pretty ball ever. And he's the second best quarterback I've ever witnessed with my own eyes. And I'll say it again. I grew up watching Marino and Elway and Montana. And the only guy that I've watched better than him is Patrick Mahomes.
And Jayden Daniels now.
Okay, through 9 games. But actually, Jayden Daniels reminds me of a young Aaron Rodgers. Like the scramble ability.
The way he throws.
And amazing throws. So, and I don't, and even when he was with the Packers, as much as it hurt me, I've always gave Aaron Rodgers his flowers.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Texans defensive line is one of
they're amazing. They are
in the league. And I think against this Jets offensive line, I just don't think he's going to have time to get the ball out to his players. Now, if they play sensible winning football, they should win this game.
He is, but I just don't think the quarterback who gets the ball out of his hands the fastest in NFL history.
Yeah, but they lost against the Patriots last week. Lost by 3 points.
The Texans team would lose against that Patriots team without their 2 receivers.
No, I don't think so, because they still have who's good enough.
I disagree. I think that without their receivers, I think we're going to see how stuck they are. I guess we're going to find out. We're going to find out.
Yeah, right? We'll find out very quickly.
Playing football,
you know what? We were talking last week how we don't like doing our lock bets on the Thursday night, because it means that we're 1 short on Sunday, so we don't have like as much of a game. But I just felt like this game, just for me, if I see the Jets favorites at all this season, unless they're against a few teams, I'm going to take against them. And the Texans
Plus,
are great.
Thursday night's always a weird night for football. Like you never know
that is
because it's
true.
a half a week. Everybody's still fucking sore.
Yeah, that is true. It's fun that we made both of our lock bet, two of our lock bets on this game, and they're both opposite. Jay, let's finish off the show with our Week 9 best bets. We've both taken our first ones in Thursday Night Football, but my best bet is the Texans +2. You've picked the Jets -2, and they're playing against each other as two of our bets. Jay, what's your second best bet of the week?
Commanders, this is the number one. Commanders -4 versus the Giants.
Yeah, sorry, I just do mine in time order. But Commanders -4, I nearly took that. I was like, how are we still not sure on the Commanders? That's what I'm confused about. And the Giants are just not good. The Giants are just not a good football team. Outside of Sexy Dexy, obviously.
And someday I'm going to have to find out how a guy from Nebraska is a Packer fan, but we'll get into that later. But
yeah. Jay, one of mine is after the Ravens coming off that game against the Browns, I'm going to take the Broncos +9 against the Ravens as one of my best bets. The Broncos have been playing amazing football and the second best defense in the NFL.
I almost went the other way on that one too
Wow.
with the best bet. So, but that was too much of a point spread. I'm not sold on Denver. I'm not at all. Like to me, they're up and down. And you like Bo Nix way more than I do.
I'm not sold on Denver. I just think they're not 9 points worse than the Ravens in the style that the Ravens play football. The Ravens defense is a problem, and Bo Nix has been playing really.
Kind of feels like Denver's your sweetheart team this year.
I think they might be Denver and the Chargers, maybe.
I'm with the Steelers. I told you my sweetheart team this year is the Steelers.
Do like the Steelers. Jay, who is your third best bet of the week?
Plug your ears, Mark. The Lions -2.5 over the Packers.
Yeah, I nearly took this one as well. I was looking at it and just thought that's not enough points. That's not enough points for the Packers.
That's what I thought too. And I think there's a chance that all four teams in the North make the playoffs.
Yeah,
and I think you can almost lock that 3 of them are going to make it.
Just the way that the Lions play football there, if they're favorite, I think they've got to be favorite by at least a field goal, if not more, just because of the way that they play football. And me and you have been on record saying we're not sure how good this Packers defense actually is. Like everybody talks about it being one of the best defenses. Whenever I watch them play, I don't think it pops off the screen to me that they're an amazing defense.
The only good team they beat was the Texans, who was without Nico Collins. So,
yeah,
and I'm not saying that they're not good. I'm just saying you got to show me. Like you got to show me more. And I just thought, shit, they're only 2.5 favorites. And I know it's a divisional game, and the Lions and the Packers always play these wild fucking games to the end. But that was more of the Aaron Rodgers Packers that did that. So, and then how healthy is Jordan Love?
Yeah, what's the answer to that question? We haven't seen him playing with his full health all year. Jay, for me, my final best bet of the week here is the Chargers are -1 against the Cleveland Browns. I think the Chargers are playing some of the most consistent football, and the Browns are playing like the Browns. I think will come back down to earth. And
when I looked through that game, my gut said take the Browns, and I won't decide until Sunday. So we'll figure that out. But yeah.
So you just hate all of my best bets this week. I actually think
I don't know what hate, but yeah, they would have been mine.
I actually think this is a really great week for betting. Like I actually look at a lot of these best bet. Like last week, we said very clearly, do not bet on these games. By the way, we both went 8-8. And then this week, I look at them and I go, yep, bet. Here we go. And turns out you just disagree with my best bet. So now I'm terrified. Now I'm worried. Normally we don't disagree on best bet. All right. Cool. I just think the Chargers play really solid football, and I think the Browns had a really great game against a division rival, but I can see Jameis Winston throw in 3 picks.
I think if you go back through, and I don't know this for a fact, I probably pick the Chargers almost every week.
Yeah, I just think they're a really solid team under Harbaugh.
I think I trust John Harbaugh. This is funny. The guy who did not want John Harbaugh as the Vikings coach, or Jim Harbaugh as the Vikings coach, still thinks Jim Harbaugh can really coach.
Yeah, definitely. All right, and everybody, enjoy your football. Enjoy everything going forward today. We've got another comment here on tonight's. Oh, yeah, definitely. All right, guys. Jay, send us out like you always do.
All right, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Make sure you tune in tomorrow to catch College Football Junkies with Mark in Montana. Make sure you tune in every Tuesday for MMA Underground. And yes, we will even be there through election night. So if you're as sick of this fucking political landscape as I am, tune into MMA Underground Tuesday night to take your mind off of it. And then you can wake up Monday morning and find out which side is going to cause civil unrest. All right, guys. One world, one love. Deuces.
Cheerio.